happen in Tikrit if the U.S. forces don't get there before the Kurds. Everyone welcomes the Kurdish forces as allies, and we've got a lot of them, and the irregulars that are moving down from the north. But we also know, and every Marine knows, that what happened in Kurdistan in 1991 and 1995 was a massacre perpetrated by officers from Tikrit at the direction of another Tikriti, Saddam Hussein. And what people fear is the possibility of a terrible massacre if the Kurds get there first. It would be one of those massacres of biblical proportions. But let me ask Chris if he thinks the mission's over. The question was, Chris, are you prepared to go on, or is Baghdad the end of the line?
No, we'll keep going as long as we need to, and it's too soon to say that the mission's over here.
There it is from the Marines, the horse's mouth, Bob.
All right. Colonel Oliver North reporting from Iraq outside Baghdad, as he was saying, within a couple miles of our other guys, Rick Leventhal and Greg Kelly. Thank you very much, Colonel.
It's really amazing that they're all so close to one another. Last hour, we had them all three up at the same time, and they were talking to each other.
And it's, you know, as Secretary Rumsfeld was saying, you know, you're not seeing the war, you're seeing a slice of the war on television. Well, at least we're giving you several slices, so people do get a feel for what's going on around there. We're going to take a break. We've got a lot more coming up.
And in fact, no, what I was going to say was we were showing another slice. We were showing that video of the Constellation with the jets taking off. I don't know if we've still got that live picture. There we go. We see the fighter jets.
I believe that's an F-18 about to take off there, or has it landed?
Let's watch it.
Can't take off from there, can it?
I guess not.
It's just landed,
Okay.
It has to be a little farther back to take off. Those things have done a lot of the work, and now the activity with these planes is in northern Iraq, in those places that we've been talking about, Mosul, Tikrit, other areas up there, Kirkuk, although supposedly that's under control now by the Kurds, and they're even saying they will pull out.
But I think, as we've all pointed out, there was one just landing, but as we've pointed out, the heavy stuff's going to come in the north next. We'll see how heavy it is. So, USS Constellation operating 24/7. Our coverage continues in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
I'll beat anybody's price. I'll beat his price.
Tired of double talk? Here's a real sale. Suzuki's once-a-year Move Fast sale. Get great financing or $2,000 cash back on all new 2003 Arios. A Consumer's Digest Best Buy with America's #1 warranty. That's 0% APR financing for 5 years or $2,000 cash back. So get in and take a closer look at America's best value so you don't have to deal with them.
We want to sell you a car.
Save up to 80% by buying Factory Direct. The Jewelry Exchange is a direct diamond importer and manufactures their jewelry direct. The Jewelry Exchange has thousands of diamonds and semi-mounts and guarantees the lowest price. The Jewelry Exchange's 1-carat platinum bands are $1,400. 1-carat 3-stone rings are $899. 3/4 carat bracelets are $149. 3-stone pendants are $99, and 1-carat studs are $399. You can't beat our deals. Buy Factory Direct and save. The Jewelry Exchange in Burlingame.
AT&T Broadband is now Comcast, and we're ready to upgrade your cable TV. Give your TV a fresh new look with the most popular digital networks and Showtime for bold originals, Hollywood hits, and championship boxing. Upgrade your TV. Get up to 240 channels, including Showtime, for just $9.95 more a month, plus free upgrade installation. Upgrade your TV room with a $50 gift card to the Home Depot just for ordering Showtime with this offer. Call 1-888-824-8174 now and let Comcast upgrade your TV.
There you go. War against Iraq supporting 82%. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Joining us right now, our very own Rick Leventhal. He's been embedded with he's moved around a little bit now with the 1st Regiment, 2nd Battalion of the 23rd U.S. Marines. It's a mouthful, and Rick always has plenty to tell us about. Rick, what's going on?
Well, Bob, these guys are reservists, many of them from Salt Lake City, the rest from Las Vegas, Nevada, and some other points as well. They have taken over the Iraqi Ministry of Intelligence, which is the Iraqi equivalent of the CIA. It's a huge compound, and they have made all sorts of amazing finds here. including an underground bunker that they say is chock full of documents and other documents and what? You said videotapes and microfiche?
Videotapes, microfiche, paper file records, diskettes, CD-ROMs, everything that you can imagine.
This is Captain Gogan, and you were telling me that this place was used to house, we don't know how many prisoners, perhaps thousands of prisoners, and they may well have been killed here, was what we're hearing.
Rick, when we came in here, we had to chase out some looters after we first occupied the facility, and a couple of those looters were English capable, and they told us that over 500,000 people were disappeared into this compound over the past 13, 14 years.
Yeah, we also heard that people were coming to the gate saying, I want to, is my father in there? Is my brother in there?
They were requesting loved ones, giving us lists of names. Can you find these people for us? And obviously when we got here, there wasn't anybody except for the looters that were running out on their own.
There's some pretty nasty-looking prison cells and jail cells here. One of them apparently headquarters for the secret police. And there's this secret police ID that I was just handed. They actually caught someone outside the gates in a firefight who was holding one of these IDs when they caught him. This facility was also heavily damaged, targeted by a Tomahawk cruise missile. Guys, if you could give us a look back at that building behind us. It is a video phone. It'll be a little jerky, but the entire building is just crushed by that Tomahawk. A lot of Ba'ath Party loyalists in this immediate area. The firefight that these guys with Fox Company were in a couple days ago was right outside the gates of this complex. So they have seen a lot of action, and unfortunately, one of their own died about, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Staff Sergeant James Cawley. He was a Salt Lake City police officer. He was killed in action out here, and his funeral happens to be today. Tell us about this Marine.
About 3 days prior to this, Marine was an outstanding Marine, loved his Marines, did everything for his Marines. About 3 days prior to his death, he was involved in a major firefight where he assisted and led the first platoon across a big open area to some structures in the town of Algoraf, where we rescued or helped assist in getting out a pinned down unit of 34 Marines from 11th Marines that were pinned down. Their CO was severely wounded. They were taking heavy mortar fire, machine gun fire. They took small arms fire and RPGs, and he led the first platoon across a big wide open area into the town, led his platoon with the other platoons in trace. All the Marines within the company performed outstanding, and at this point we've submitted a award up for Staff Sergeant James Cawley for a Silver Star and for his actions there in Algoraf.
How tough is it for your company to lose someone?
It's very tough. We were all very close. It's a very close-knit family. Half of us from Salt Lake City. We've known each other for a long time. I worked with Staff Sergeant Cawley. I worked for the fire department in Salt Lake City. He was a police officer in Salt Lake City. The staff NCOs here are extremely tight. We've hung out together for every day since we got activated, and it was real tough on all of us.
Well, let's hope that they award that Silver Star.
Yes, sir.
For Staff Sergeant James Cawley,
yes, sir.
Who died out here in Iraq serving his country. When he wasn't, he was back home being a police officer in Salt Lake City. A lot of these guys are police officers and in a variety of other jobs that they do out here. I know we got some students. You're one of the students, right?
No, I'm one of the EMTs from Vegas, sir.
All right, an EMT from Vegas. And you, sir?
I'm a plumber from Alpine, Utah.
A plumber. And now you find yourself fighting in a war. That's a pretty big contrast.
Sometimes. I grew up working with my dad. It's new here, but it was kind of a war sometimes, too. But this has been good.
But I'm guessing when those bullets start flying, maybe you're wishing you had the wrench in your hand again.
I don't know. It's a lot more exciting having the bullets fly, I think, but it's a hard call.
Yeah, and the hard work continues. They're continuing to do patrols, continuing to look for Iraqi resistance, and continuing to look for munitions. They have found a tremendous amount of munitions, and when they find it, they disable it or they blow it up. And let me tell you something, guys. Those explosions are loud.
I have no doubt. Rick, you were describing some of those guys that are there in that unit, and you were making the point that these are folks that had other jobs, and now they're there on the front lines. Did they themselves ever think they would be on the front lines?
Did you hear that question? They're wondering if you'd ever thought that you'd be on the front line.
Well, as Marines, we always lead from the front. So we're here to do our jobs and get home safely.
So what was your reaction when you got that phone call saying, "Hey, you're activated, go"?
Well, we've been activated for over a year. We've had different missions over the last year, and we knew that as part of the Marine Corps, we would have a part in helping free Iraq.
Yeah, these are the only active duty Marine infantry. This is the only active duty Marine infantry battalion. I'm sorry, it's a mouthful. The only reservists on active duty, the only Marine infantry reservists on active duty. Did I get that right?
I'm sure you did.
Wow, it's been a long 3.5, 4 weeks.
Feels like it's been about 8 years.
No doubt.
Yeah.
How about you? When you got that call, were you? I mean, I know that you guys were already activated, but then when you get the call that you're actually going overseas and going to fight in a war,
it was a bit of a shock at first. But I think with the way we've all worked together for the past year, we knew we were a tight team. That any job he handed us, we were going to take care of, and this was just another notch in the belt.
Well, let's get a quick look at that sign. Who's that for?
My daughter Maya. She turned 3 on the 3rd.
His daughter Maya turned 3 on the 3rd.
Right. And my wife Joanne. I love you both, and we'll be home soon.
How about that? You use both sides of the MRE box, right? and go ahead, Marine.
We got a truck company out here with all the infantry guys. We're from Evansburg, Pennsylvania. Proud to be here. It's a close-knit family. We've all come together and doing our job well. Can't complain at all, sir.
Want to say hi to anybody?
Got to give a shout out to all the friends and family of 1st and 2nd Platoon Truck Company in Evansburg. We'll be home soon. We're safe. We're good to go.
Wow, I hope we are home soon. Not that I don't love hanging out with these guys, but man, a burger and a beer. We'll hoorah on that. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they sound a little tired, maybe because it's 9:30 in the morning. Maybe they're not thinking about a beer.
Wait, I got to show you. Let me tell you something. They're all thinking about beer, no matter what time of the day or night it is. Okay, we get a shot of that sign right there. We'll fight for smokes. I know they're running low on the smokes and the dip. Am I right on that?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, they could use some tobacco products.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, I want to ask you kind of a serious question just for a minute, if we might digress. What about the discovery of that mobile bioweapons lab? I know that that was the big news several hours ago, but for people who might just be turning on their TV for the first time tonight, tell us about that.
Well, okay, we were with Echo Company a couple days ago, and yesterday morning we were hanging out with them, and yesterday morning we woke up and we were in this housing complex. So there was houses under construction, and it was filled with military vehicles, anti-aircraft weapons, and caches of weapons in these homes under construction. And at some point during the morning, someone got in one of those vehicles and tried to drive it away. The Marine shot at the vehicle and warned the driver to stop. But the driver apparently bailed out. He jumped out, rolled, and ran away. The vehicle kept rolling, and the Marines kept shooting. They lit up this vehicle with a .50 caliber and M16s and disabled it. They went in and investigated. They thought it might be a truck bomb. It wasn't. So then we were there with them. We followed them up. We saw what they were doing. We checked out the vehicle, and then we continued on our way. Well, later, Marines went back and opened the thing up. And inside, they found that it was designed to look like a radar truck, a surface-to-air missile support vehicle, but that there was a false wall inside that vehicle. So they went through the side panels of that vehicle, and inside those side panels, they found a hidden space in the back, a safe space, they called it, with an electronic pulley system in there. There were open bins and containers and a winch with a claw on it that someone could use to go down into those bins and containers and lift and move things that they didn't want to touch with their bare hands. A captain with a battalion headquarters told me that this thing fit the description of a biological lab, that it was set up to be able to keep things cool or warm and set up in such a way that this area where they would do that and possibly move these things around was hidden so that anybody who looked in the vehicle wouldn't know that this space was there. It fit the description of a biological lab. It fit the description of a rolling biolab that the Pentagon had warned they believed existed. They are now investigating this find. They were sending people there today to give a closer look at this vehicle, see whether they could find traces of Camera Bio in there, and determine if, in fact, it is what they think it is.
All right. Rick Leventhal reporting from Baghdad, outside Baghdad, and talking about perhaps a smoking gun, perhaps the first of many. We'll find out. We'll continue our coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom after this. Stay with us on the Fox News Channel.
It has a legendary reputation for reliability, durability, and quality. It's been named to Car and Driver's 10 Best list 14 times. It was the first gasoline-powered production automobile to be certified as a low-emission vehicle in the U.S. And the best part is, it's used. Honda certified used cars. Proof that how you start out in life is a good indication of how far you'll go. You see, it may be used, but it's still a Honda.
Tomorrow, coalition forces converge on Tikrit. Could Saddam use this stronghold to launch deadly guerrilla attacks on our troops? Plus, a mobile biolab. Has the U.S. uncovered Iraq's weapons of terror? At 8, it's the O'Reilly Factor. At 9, watch Hannity and Combs. At 10, Greta goes on the record. Support our troops. Send your thoughts, prayers, and comments to troops@foxnews.com. Voice your patriotism and watch Fox News Channel for feedback from viewers like you.
Some sad news to report from the town of Najaf. A cleric was hacked to death at a mosque. This is what military planners had feared the most, this kind of incident. Let's go to Kuwait City now, where Steve Santani is standing by with the latest on that and other developments. Hi, Steve.
It was supposed to be a meeting to promote peace and help lay the groundwork for a future government in Iraq, but instead it turned very, very ugly with violence and bloodshed at one of the most holy sites in the Muslim world. Now, a prominent Shiite Muslim cleric, Abdul Majid al-Khoui, was killed Thursday in Najaf just a week after returning from exile in London. Al-Khoui was a staunch opponent of Saddam Hussein, but he was reaching out to a mullah who was connected to the old regime when an angry crowd killed both of them. Al-Khoui's murder points up the perils facing anyone who would vie for power in a post-Saddam world in a country with many fragmented religious and political factions. The killing took place at one of the most revered shrines in the Shiite Muslim world. It's the Ali Mosque. That's where the son-in-law and cousin of the Prophet Muhammad is buried. There are conflicting reports about the attack, but shots may have been fired to try and prevent the attack, prevent that crowd from killing al-Khoui and the Ba'ath Party mullah. According to one report, the killing took place when members of a faction loyal to another mullah confronted the Saddam loyalist who was meeting with al-Khoui. The killing was condemned by Prime Minister Tony Blair, who knew al-Khoui, and by Ahmed Chalabi, who has also returned from exile in hopes of playing a key role in Iraq's transitional government. Now, Chalabi, the head of the Iraqi National Congress, was greeted by thousands of Shiites just this week when he addressed a crowd in al-Nasiriyah. But critics are questioning Chalabi's qualifications to lead Iraq, claiming he really has little support among the people. Chalabi is a multimillionaire who was once convicted of embezzlement after a Jordanian bank that he ran went belly up. He left the country before his case went to trial. And finally, the Speaker of the Parliament here in Kuwait is taking a go-slow attitude toward any future Iraqi government, saying this country should be hesitant to embrace any new Iraqi regime. Jassim al-Kharafi says Kuwait should be careful not to repeat the mistakes of the past. He points out that Kuwait did indeed support Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq war during the 1980s, only to have Iraq turn around and invade Kuwait a few years later. Al-Kharafi says we have learned a lesson, and I believe we have to be logical and reasonable this time. Live in Kuwait City, I'm Steve Santani. Back to you in New York.
All right, Steve, thank you very much for that update. We'll talk to you a little bit later.
Right now, we're going to check in with Heather Nauert. She's in Amman, Jordan. Heather, what's going on there?
Good morning there. New signs of a fallen regime, disorder in Baghdad, no signs of any government services, and widespread looting in Baghdad. Even Iraqi border guards are now abandoning their posts, leaving behind empty checkpoints in Jordan along the western border of Iraq. Looters are raiding the place, destroying documents, and there are even reports that some border guards were asking journalists passing through for a lift to Baghdad. Now, the atmosphere of disarray in Baghdad continues into its third day, and to help crack down, U.S. Marines are setting up checkpoints throughout the city, trying to prevent rogue Iraqi fighters from moving en masse into the city, but also to establish control and order into the city. Now, of course, that's a tall order, since the militia and jihadis are determined to attack in unconventional ways. Thursday night, a suicide bomber blew himself up at a Marine checkpoint in Saddam City, which is northeast of Baghdad, injuring 4 Marines. One Marine captain keeping a stiff upper lip, saying this is a reality that's here to stay.
This is what happens when you go to war. But so, you know, this isn't anything new. This isn't anything revolutionary. I mean, Christ, people have been blowing themselves up in this region for quite some time. But again, you know, like I said, you know, when you deal with the scum of the earth who are hiding behind women and children, then that's what you get. So.
Now, farther north into the city of Kirkuk, U.S. Special Forces and Army troops entering the oil-rich area as the Iraqi regular army pulled back. It's the first major northern city to fall, but U.S. officials are refusing to say that coalition forces control the city of Kirkuk. Now, American troops are working alongside Kurdish fighters, which is making the Turkish government a little nervous. Officials there are worried that the Kurds will try to create an independent state in the north. U.S. forces saying to the Turks, don't worry, we'll stay in control of this area. But still, Turkey is sending its own military observers to the region to keep an eye on the action. And also in the north, in Saddam Hussein's hometown of Tikrit, coalition forces are preparing themselves for what could be a last stand by Iraqi Special Republican Guard and Fedayeen units. Bombing continues, also special operations missions, and even leaflets are being dropped encouraging Iraqi fighters to surrender. That's the latest from the region. Back to you in New York.
Heather Nauert, thank you very much.
A double thank you. Thanks,
That's
Heather.
Right. We're very happy to have her.
I know. It's good to see her over there. She's doing a great job. All right. Well, joining us right here in New York is one of our Fox News military analysts, Colonel David Hunt. Good to see you, Colonel.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being here. Let's follow up on what Heather was ending her report with, and that was the activity in the north.
Sure.
Mosul, Kirkuk, Tikrit. If you would kind of spell out what U.S. and coalition forces are doing there and what Kurdish forces are doing, particularly in Mosul and Kirkuk.
The big one was Kirkuk today for a couple of reasons. One, the Kurds got in there. The Iraqis left, no fight. And you've got this picture of the Kurds having a celebration. That's great for us, but it's not great for the Turks. Turkey is very nervous about that.
Oh, yeah. And
we've already had our State Department and the Turkish government talking about Kirkuk while the Kurds are having a great time celebrating. And it's huge because of the oil fields. So what's probably going to happen there is the Kurds are going to have to leave, and they've already agreed to. Mosul, that's actually further north than that, went later. That was actually Special Operations guys and the Kurds. That's actually taken, but the Department of Defense, we have not. We're ahead of them by 6 hours because they want to make sure it's the right thing to do. Kirkuk, the other one, Tikrit, which is where Saddam was born, and this alleged last remnants, it will go down a lot easier than everyone's saying because it's a smaller organization and we've done. Go ahead.
You don't think it's going to be a big battle?
No, not at all. I think what's happened leading up to this for the last 3 weeks, I think the pictures of statues falling, I think that the pressure that we've put on with the great naval and aviation air and our helicopters and the fact that they know what's about to happen to them, I think this time tomorrow we'll be talking about that thing going away.
Let's talk about Kirkuk for a second, because the Kurds going in there, the Turks are upset about this. The irony being, the Kurds went in there pretty much without Allied forces because the 4th Infantry wasn't allowed to come through Turkey. Oh, yeah. Having said all that, why is it any of Turkey's business what happens in an Iraqi city?
Because the Turks will say, in the last war, they accepted by the hundreds of thousands Kurdish refugees that were forced out from the 91 war, and that they're sitting in northern Turkey, and they're causing, according to the Turks, terrorism in their country. So they don't want this flow back and forth. They don't want a capital of Kurdistan that close to the border, and oil. They don't want them to have the support, the money of oil. And we're going to placate. It's EU, that's NATO. We're going to play it.
And by the way, Saddam was driving out in kind of an ethnic cleansing way the Kurds out of Kirkuk.
Yeah, he probably killed 500,000 people.
100,000
500,000 people that he probably killed in 30 years.
Yeah, and so a lot of those Kurds who used to live there are trying to return to what they consider their
Turks are really nervous about the Kurdish issue, and that's what centers on that issue. The other ones, the point is, I think by this time tomorrow, we'll be talking about the fall of those 3 cities and the consolidation.
Okay. All right, let's say those 3 cities have fallen by this time tomorrow. Yeah. We'll see if you're right.
Okay.
When you're talking about the north, you've got Syria on one side, Iran on the other. That's the question everybody is now asking as we look even more into the future. What next? There.
In between, though, yeah, the answer is yes, they are. And the reason because the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State are talking about Syria allowing stuff coming across the border, night vision goggles, and now we're talking about the possibility that some weapons of mass destruction got out through Syria. And we've got the Iranians and the Syrians showing up in Iraq, probably acting as some of these suicide bombers, causing trouble. The other part of that, though, is there's 300-some villages in the...
We made our way into Baghdad from Jordan on a bombed-out highway littered with the hulks of abandoned and destroyed vehicles. As night fell, the danger level rose.
There's a half moon up there and the stars, but they're obscured to some extent by that cloud of black smoke you may see over my shoulders. This comes from the oil trenches set afire by the Iraqis. Things are tense, as you would imagine, to say the least. Just a few minutes ago, 2 Iraqi trucks came racing down the road just behind me. The U.S. Army soldiers saw them barreling toward them. They opened fire. Everybody ducked for cover. Nobody knew what the situation was going to be. The trucks hastily turned around and sped away. Who was in them, what their intentions might have been, no one knows. But in the dark, of course, the U.S. troops weren't taking any chances.
By dawn, we approached Baghdad's city limits.
It's about 8:15 in the morning. The sun's up, been up for quite a while. Virtually no Iraqis on the street. The situation here is there's been some gunfire in the background. The U.S. troops have blocked off this area with a tank, 2 tanks, and off to the side are various riflemen. One, they want to determine where the fire is coming from and then try to go in and do something about it. But this takes time, block by block, street by street.
All around us, burned out buildings, the aftermath of 2 weeks of intensive U.S. bombing.
This is, or was, the Ministry of Planning. Now, this is on the grounds of one of the palaces. Just behind this Ministry of Planning is where I interviewed Saddam Hussein a little over a month ago.
Remnants of the regime still stand, but surrounded now by a conquering power.
One of the hallmarks of Baghdad right now is this, the burnout hulk of an automobile. They're all over the city. And all along this boulevard, well, in our sight now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these, what used to be automobiles. And in this one is a body. Clearly what happened, he was trying to get to or away from someplace, got shot through the windshield. Who shot him? Who knows?
Passports, ID cards. Parts of the city, many parts, were quiet, while others were patrolled by soldiers on high alert.
What did you see when the Americans first came?
We are happy when we see them. We said, salute, salute, down, Saddam Hussein, long live America, British.
Iraqi citizens looked on as U.S. tanks patrolled their streets, and American soldiers tended to their wounded.
Well, tell me what happened here today.
Evidently, there was a Iraqi civilian that was shot by an Iraqi soldier early this morning, and the civilian population asked to bring him forward, and I told them they could. So we treated him and sent him back to our forward aid station.
You said there was a hell of a fight here on this bridge.
Yeah.
And we heard stories of ferocious fighting.
We met some dismounted RPG teams and anti-tank teams moving down the road.
They were trying to hold the bridge.
Yes, I think so. This was a key intersection.
Captain Phil Wolford and his men fought to secure a key section of downtown Baghdad.
What was their largest firepower?
They had a couple 106mm recoilless rifles mounted on Jeeps. They had RPGs, and we're not sure if they had some of the bigger anti-tank weapons. We think they did.
Any casualties among your men?
We had two casualties. Both are in good shape now. One of them returned to that day and actually got back in the fight that day.
And the Iraqis, were they tough fighters, tough, hard fighters, not so good, or in between?
They were good, but it's always good to be an American soldier because you know you're in probably the best army the world's ever seen. So it was a good fight.
Now, in addition to everything else, new chores leaders in Washington have given the U.S. military include restoring law and order, restoring water and electricity, and in some ways, in effect, becoming social workers. Like everything else in this now wreck of a country, U.S. soldiers and Marines know that they'll have to do all of those jobs the hard way. Theirs is not the reason why. Theirs is but to do or die. In Baghdad, I'm Dan Rather.
There have been 23 days of war and 23 days of mystery. Where is Saddam Hussein? Is he dead or alive? As Jim Stewart reports, speculation about Saddam is definitely alive and well.
This war began with an attempt to knock him out. And this week, the U.S. tried again. But the question remains, what has happened to Saddam Hussein? You can forgive Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld for being a bit touchy on that subject because he hears it every day.
Do you believe that Saddam Hussein is still alive?
Don't know.
Do you believe that he was in that building before it was taken out?
Don't know.
No, hold on.
No, hold on. You just don't like one-word answers. Yes.
Rumsfeld is only being honest. At this hour, there's still no one here who knows for certain where Saddam Hussein is. But at the highest levels of government, a large part of the office pool is more and more betting that he's dead. The problem is, how do you prove it?
The most definitive way would be examining the DNA of any of his cells.
Dr. Michael Baden is a DNA expert who points out the obvious, but to match up any body parts from the bombing sites with Hussein, you must first have a sample of the dictator's DNA. And as of today, the U.S. is still looking for that sample, and rumors that U.S. forces in Baghdad found Hussein's dental records aren't true.
If Saddam Hussein had ever left behind a cigarette butt, a glass with saliva on it, there's enough DNA in those objects that a file could have been made on him as to what kind of DNA he had.
Barring that, troops are actively looking for witnesses and survivors of those two airstrikes, hoping they can say just who was there, who was not, and who didn't make it out.
And this deck of cards is one example of what we provide to soldiers and Marines out in the field, with the faces of the individuals and what their role is. And the intent here is to help the coalition gain information from the Iraqi people so that they also know exactly who it is we seek.
If Hussein is still alive, on the other hand, U.S. officials are game planning 3 scenarios. The first is that he's still in Baghdad, hiding in one of his elaborate underground bunkers. Dr. Gerald Post is a former analyst for the CIA and an expert on Hussein.
Is this the kind of guy that would have an escape plan?
This surely is the kind of guy who would have an escape plan. He had this massive bunker under this grandiose palace, including a helicopter with a disguised escape hatch.
There's some evidence to support the notion that as late as Tuesday evening, Hussein or one of his 2 sons was still calling the shots in Baghdad. That's when someone communicated to the top leadership, all the way from close friends like Defense Minister Sultan Ahmed and Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Aziz to the delusional Information Minister Mohammed al-Shahaf.
We are going to tackle them and to destroy them.
That it was time to bail.
Is it likely if we find one of those 4 or 5 key players that would lead to him?
They are really like a band of brothers, with, however, him being, by all means, first among them and the supreme authority.
A second scenario has him fleeing to Tikrit. It's his hometown, and he's presumably still loved there. And in his last interview, the one with Dan Rather in February, Hussein hinted he would make a last stand somewhere.
سنموت أيضا في العراق.
We will die here in Iraq.
But if Baghdad and Mosul are any indication, Tikrit could become just another trap leading to his capture. So Hussein, the thinking goes, may have his eyes set on escape all the way to Syria, where he could live to fight another day.
He has retreated on a number of occasions, always believing he can reconstitute, come back, and he's temporarily yielded.
But there's a problem for Saddam with that scenario as well. The Iraqi dictator may have a long history of friendship with the Syrian regime, but this is a new day in the Middle East. Give refuge to Saddam Hussein, some U.S. officials suggest, and the tanks that conquered Baghdad could just as easily find Damascus.
Up next, their husbands are together on the front lines. These women are holding each other close on the home front. Members of an exclusive club.
Mark and Karen have twins. They use their Discover card because it pays them for the things they buy. So far, they've earned a cashback bonus award of $140. It's money they use to pay for a special night out and an emergency 24-pack. Discover card. Why not get paid for the things you buy anyway?
It's a beautiful morning. This is my favorite time to skate. I guess it's from all those years of 5 a.m. practices. But it's also the time when the pain and stiffness of osteoarthritis can be at their worst.
Ask your doctor about ways to help relieve the pain of osteoarthritis. Call 1-888-MERC55 for more information.
Here comes the hair goddess of 4B. I hear her blow dryer every day. Why isn't her hair dried out?
Sometimes your blow dryer leaves you high and dry. That's why Thermasilk by Helene Curtis has a silk protein formula that works with heat to make your hair soft and silky. Thermasilk by Helene Curtis.
Nice hair. Thanks.
DC's Top Cop has seen it all, but this case has one new twist.
This isn't about killing hookers. This is a different kind of animal.
Bring the bastard down. All new District. Then, the CIA has a dangerous new partner in the war on terrorism. The mob.
Those terrorist bastards make me sick.
An all-new agency following an all-new District. CBS Saturday.
From Hallmark Hall of Fame and John Grisham, A Painted House, CBS Sunday, April 27th.
3 husbands and soldiers, Black Hawk helicopter pilots, part of a band of brothers in the Iraq War. But this is the story of 3 women, their wives, a band of sisters. Mika Brzezinski got to know them.
Savannah, Georgia, home to the Hunter Army Airfield.
Hi, it's Jennifer and Dee.
And to 3 Army wives.
Hi, good morning.
Who are closer than most families.
The Army forces you to meet people, and you meet a group of women that you love. And you're not friends, you're sisters.
We're getting a warm reception. Sisters joined by a common bond. Their husbands, all helicopter pilots, are serving in the same Army unit in the Persian Gulf. And while their husbands fight together in Iraq, these wives stick together. Hardly a move is made without one of them close by.
What would you do without each other?
You know what? I'm literally with them or on the phone with them.
If she can do anything. We walk in the morning, we get together at night.
Our relationship is on a different level than our friends who are not in the military.
Jennifer is a print journalist who married Scott Diaz in January, just 2 weeks before he deployed.
I never imagined I'd marry a soldier. You can't help who you fall in love with.
I got Prince Charming.
Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy Adamowski.
Megan is also a newlywed, a school teacher who married Jimmy Adamowski 7 months ago.
He threw me a wedding because he thought I deserved it.
We'll give you permission to have a Guinness.
And then there is Denise, who is expecting first baby with husband Martin Gonzalez any day now.
I can't imagine having this child without him.
Last week, the women's worst fears came true.
At this time, we do not know the cause of this helicopter coming down.
When a chopper in their husband's unit crashed in central Iraq.
There were 6 individuals on board that Black Hawk. None of them survived the downing.
I knew that it was going to be somebody that I cared about. I knew it instantly.
What they didn't know was who. The 3 women agonized together, knowing that good news for one might mean the worst news for another.
The 3 of us were together that entire day for about 28 hours. I cannot even describe to you what those hours were like. Sheer panic, fear like no other.
Megan's first thought was that Denise's husband might be among the dead.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it wasn't mine. That never crossed my mind.
But when the news did come, it was Megan's husband. Jimmy was one of the 6 killed.
I got the phone call and we found out it was Megan, and we both started to break down immediately. We were happy for ourselves, but we feel very guilty.
Just this week, Megan received a letter from Jimmy, his last. And like many of the ones before, she read it to the girls.
I know how lucky I am to have you, and will return home to you soon. I had a much more fulfilling marriage in the short few months we had together than most people will ever have in their lives. And I'm so blessed to be able to call him my husband.
3 women, close before the start of this war, now bonded for life.
I've just don't know how to explain how much their friendship and their love and how much they care for me has helped me through this.
Aw, that's a pity Martin can't see this.
Denise's baby, a boy, is due in just 2 weeks.
Look right now.
This is the tip of the neck.
Megan and Jennifer will be there.
Oh, very pretty. Those are beautiful.
The most important group of women that I've ever met. I know in 10 years, I'll still know these women.
Just ahead, the Army calls it friendly fire. It's anything but.
I'd made a promise to Janie. Her new bike had to be ready. But my migraine just wouldn't go away. That's when I knew I had to talk to my doctor about my migraines. She prescribed Imitrex.
Prescription Imitrex targets your total migraine. Pain, nausea, sensitivity to light and sound. Some pain relievers are made for general kinds of pain. Imitrex is targeted. It was the first medicine of its kind, believed to target the nerves and blood vessels that trigger migraine without drowsiness.
Imitrex is not right for everyone or every migraine. If you have certain types of heart or blood vessel disease or uncontrolled blood pressure, you shouldn't take Imitrex. Very rarely, certain people, even some without heart disease, have had serious heart-related problems. So talk to your doctor, especially if you have risk factors for heart disease such as smoking, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, or if you're pregnant, nursing, or taking medication.
I don't know why I waited so long.
Are you still waiting for relief? Ask your doctor about Imitrex and target your total migraine with Imitrex.
It's all new, and it's as colorful as the world around you. Introducing the Color Solution Center, only at the Home Depot. It's more than a store. It's a new and easier way to match or find a complement for any color you can imagine. It's Ralph Lauren, Behr, Glidden, and Disney in the largest paint color palette in America. Come see the brand new Color Solution Center, only at the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
About 4 years ago, my doctor said that Zocor was right for me. And since then, I've stuck with it. Ask your doctor if Zocor could work for you. Zocor. Be there.
Uh-oh. They've just smelled the leading clumpy litter after 5 days.
They need Arm & Hammer Crystal Blend, a superior odor fighter with baking soda and odor-trapping crystals.
After 5 days, Arm & Hammer Crystal Blend.
The difference between uh-oh and oh. Hey, Bob. Hey. You get a new haircut?
No.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, did you lose weight? Your jacket, Bob? Nope.
What's different? He finally asked his doctor about Viagra. Ready to ask your doctor about Viagra for the first time? Find out if a free sample is right for you. To learn more, visit Viagra.com.
Called the sitter, I walked the dog, and I saw the doctor.
Ask your doctor and see the difference.
Are women golfers about to become par for the course on the PGA Tour? They are. If she has anything to say about it, meet her Sunday on 60 Minutes. Even with all the modern weapons that have become the mainstay of this war, warriors are still bedeviled by old-fashioned problems. Almost all the weapons fired in this war are precision-guided and pinpoint accurate. Usually. But mistakes still happen. Just days ago in northern Iraq, a convoy of U.S. Special Forces soldiers and their Kurdish allies was attacked by American bombs. 3 U.S. soldiers and 18 Kurds were killed, and more than 45 were injured, including the brother and son of a Kurdish leader.
We got a critical patient, needs to get out of here.
More than 1/3 of all Allied soldiers killed in the war have been victims of accidents or what's called friendly fire.
There have been friendly fire incidents in every war in the history of mankind.
The Pentagon has been able to eliminate most of the mechanical error in warfare. These satellite-guided bombs can be programmed to hit within feet of a target, and more than 14,000 of them have been dropped so far.
It's only a tool that's as good as the people who are actually using it.
Captain Jason Amarine is a Green Beret and knows the price paid when smart bombs go astray. Amarine was the commander of a Special Forces unit sent into southern Afghanistan in November 2001 to link up with Hamid Karzai, the pro-Western leader.
Our mission was to assist him in organizing a rebellion against the Taliban.
By December 5th, 2001, they were just 18 miles north of Kandahar, a key city, and just days away from a complete Taliban surrender.
We knew there were still Taliban positions across from us, and we desired to continue to pound those positions to let them know that it was probably a good idea to leave.
One of the soldiers traveling with Amarine's unit transmitted their location and the enemy's location to a B-52 circling above. It was standard procedure, but this time something went terribly wrong.
140 degrees, 800
A bomb was programmed with the Americans' coordinates and sent hurtling toward Amarine's unit.
The bomb actually struck our hill. And for my part, you know, initially I flew through the air, landed on the ground.
What did the scene look like? What did you see?
It was mass carnage. It was the most horrible thing I'd seen in my life.
23 Afghan fighters and 3 Americans. Sergeant Daniel Petitore, Master Sergeant Jefferson Davis, and Sergeant Cody Prosser were killed. Another 37 were wounded, including Jason Amarine. Luckily, Hamid Karzai escaped with just cuts on his face.
The same day that we were bombed, Kandahar sent a delegation to surrender the city to Hamid Karzai. It's one of those tragic ironies that really, the day we were bombed, our mission had effectively ended.
The accident could have been caused by human error, or as CBS News reported, the problem could have been faulty batteries that interfered with the guidance system. The military insists mistakes with these bombs are rare. Figures show they are 90% accurate, and they are unquestionably among the most precise weapons in the history of warfare. But Jason Amarine and the men in that Iraqi convoy learned tragically that even the most sophisticated weapon still has to be aimed by people. And people make mistakes.
They cleared the way to Baghdad, building bridges. That's impressive, but it's their personal stories that really touch your heart.
It never really hit me till I got out here.
Who do we love? Daddy!
How short life can be and how I take certain things for granted.
Why can't we have Easter outfits like that?
Want great Easter outfits for the kids? Take them to Burlington Coat Factory. You can get famous label and designer dress clothes for kids, as well as the whole family, and save 20 to 60% off department store prices.
Looking good!
So now you can afford to be the envy of everyone this Easter. Burlington Coat Factory. It's more than great coats.
Don't you love nurseries pollen? Look at that runny nose and those itchy eyes.
Yeah, ragweed, it doesn't get better than this.
Seasonal allergies live to make you miserable, but Allegra is specifically designed to block the histamine that triggers so many symptoms. Maybe that's why it's the #1 prescription antihistamine.
Looks like our little garden party's over.
You can thank Allegra for that.
For people 12 and over, side effects are low and may include headache, cold, or back pain. Ask your doctor about Allegra.
Allegra schmalegra.
Allegra, so much relief for so many symptoms.
We've come this far. It's within our grasp. We can do it. Know what time is it?
Winning time!
I can't hear you. What time is it?
Winning time!
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Winning time!
It's time for McDonald's new Winning Time game. Just peel, reveal for a chance to win great prizes like drive time, sell time, cash time, and chow time. It's fast, fun, and easy.
What time is it? Winning time! No, what time is it really? We've got practice.
For the latest battlefield action online, go to cbsnews.com/48 hours.
Next week, we'll cover all the latest developments in Iraq, plus Michael Douglas, Susan Sarandon, and the next Survivor cast-off. So wake up to what's new on The Early Show.
America at war. Inside Baghdad, the situation remains tense. Monday, Dan Rather takes a close-up look at Baghdad after Saddam on the CBS Evening News.
Tonight.
Oh, Dave, can I kiss you?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Kate Winslet puts the moves on Dave. Plus, the CBS mailbag and a special top 10 tonight.
Mike Weir, Darren Clark, and Phil Mickelson lead the charge at Augusta National, and Tiger shoots for his 3rd straight. The Masters, Saturday on CBS.
CBS Monday. Inside this graveyard, CSI will discover a body that doesn't belong.
Something wasn't buried here very recently.
The clues to this case will lead to a final 5 minutes like you've never seen.
Everybody out. Everybody leave the building right now!
All new CSI Miami, CBS Monday.
Fall in love with America's favorite new family comedy, My Big Fat Greek Life, CBS Sundays.
I'm Ken Bastida. Saddam's gone. Now chaos rules Baghdad streets. Should U.S. troops play cop? And the economy is weak. Gas prices outrageous. Why Humvees are selling like hotcakes? Tonight at 11 on Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News is brought to you by Sleep Train, your ticket to a better night's sleep.
Presenting a fresh approach to shopping with fresh ways to save. This week at Albertsons, save on fresh broccoli. Buy 1 bunch, get 1 free with preferred card. Fresh London broil. Buy 1 package, get 1 free with preferred card. And fresh pork shoulder country style strips. Buy 1 package, get 1 free with preferred card. Looking for a better way to save? Albertsons. It's your store.
No. 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 Yes. 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 No. 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 You know what? None of these are working. Why don't you email me some others, okay? No.
Shop where the experts shop for the best consumer electronics. Good Guys, the audio-video specialists.
How important are the pictures you take?
David Ritz for Ritz Camera and Wolf Camera.
Trust your memories to the real photo people at Big Print Central.
Bring your film to Big Print Central at Ritz Camera and Wolf Camera. Show us your frequent photo card and get 2 sets of big prints in about an hour for only $9.99. Or prints from your digital camera for 39 cents.
Big Print Central. Camera store quality at a great price.
Ritz Camera and Wolf Camera. Capture your world.
This week marked a turning point for Iraq. A dictatorship fell, and a nation learned that liberation can sometimes lead to chaos. Amid widespread but unconfirmed reports that Saddam is dead, it's clear his regime is over. But the real work is just beginning. There is a country to rebuild, a people to shelter and feed, and a government to construct almost literally from the ground up. At the end of this historic week, both America and Iraq face an historic question. What next? It was the week Baghdad shattered. The changes were seismic. And the mood kept shifting from unbridled joy to unmasked greed. The city, once ruled with an iron fist by Saddam Hussein, plunged into anarchy.
The minute you depose a government, there's anarchy. There's chaos. That's what a government is. It's a given.
Anne-Marie Slaughter is Dean of Princeton University's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs. Do you have doubts that democracy, in the sense that we think of it, can flourish in a country like Iraq?
No, I actually think the administration is right to say this notion that you can't have democracy in the Middle East or you can't have a Muslim democracy. That's clearly not true. And there's absolutely no reason why the Iraqi people can't govern themselves.
Which do you think is stronger, the Arab urge for freedom and democracy or their hatred of us?
I think that is the $64,000 question. It's going to depend on whether we now both keep our promises and turn this government over to the Iraqi people as fast as we can, but also, do we turn back to the United Nations?
The Bush administration may hate the idea of going back to the UN, given the battles of the past. But despite that, Slaughter says we need the UN because we really can't do it all by ourselves. What makes you think that the UN would give us that mandate? You have the French still out there taking potshots at us.
Because this is their only hope of continuing to work with the United States in a way that they have any influence.
But why should the United States allow a UN mandate to dictate to us? They've been nothing but problems for us in this period.
When we choose to take other nations seriously and listen, we get 80 to 90% of what we want, and we get the legitimacy of approval by a global body, which we need.
Slaughter thinks the UN is needed for several reasons: to provide peacekeepers to help police the streets, to distribute humanitarian aid, and to oversee war crimes tribunals.
If we try these people and we claim they've committed these crimes, the world's not going to believe us, and they're going to think we planted evidence.
And the same is true for weapons of mass destruction.
If UN inspectors could come back in with us, that would help a lot, because if it's just us, the world's going to think we planted it. And we do need to make our case here. We really do.
With Tikrit as the final battleground, public opinion in the Arab world about the U.S. remains hostile. The Bush administration concedes it has a lot of repair work to do. What do you say to someone who says, look, they hate us anyway. There's nothing we can do about that. We should go in and do what we think is right in Iraq, because we can't change opinions in that part of the world.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. There'll always be some who hate us, but not all, and that's a very important difference.
You're about to get an intimate look at this war right at the tip of the spear, with some men and women up front in the march to Baghdad, all the way up from Kuwait. Richard Schlesinger has their personal war stories about coming of age, coming together, and paving the way for history.
They are as close to the front lines as the soldiers on the front page.
All right, you see something, you tell them what's coming across, and the next guy picks it up.
But this unit of Marines has never made the headlines.
You see a building, you let them know what you see.
If they weren't here, though, the story of this war could well be different. They build bridges.
All right, pull!
For the invasion forces.
All right, well, look, get those locked in.
And keep them moving forward. From the start of the war, when these combat engineers from the 1st Marine Division headed out of Kuwait towards Baghdad, 48 Hours producer Chuck Stevenson and photographer Larry Warner rode and lived with these Marines.
What's up, Wilson? You falling asleep, bro?
And introduced us to their stories.
Then we left stateside February the 2nd.
A few were here before, in the first Gulf War, like Gunnery Sergeant Mark Wendling.
I told my wife that not to expect me before October.
But most of the Marines are young as 19.
Back home, I work for Disney, and out here, I drive a really big truck with bombs on it. It's great.
In these weeks on the battlefield, they've had to grow up fast.
Well, my name's George Silva Jr. Most people just call me Doc.
Once fearless, they've become acquainted with fear, and along the way, conquered an unforgiving and hostile desert.
Iraq is weird.
There's so much empty space.
Lieutenant Adrian Tom is a 25-year-old woman who leads a platoon of about 35 men. She's a graduate of the Naval Academy and volunteered for this.
I'm a tough boss. I can be a tough boss, but I try to keep it personal and real.
We need to have some security on this end.
Lieutenant Tom Trageser is 32 and leads another platoon.
You know, this was at one time referred to as the birthplace, the cradle of civilization. So it's almost an awing, the fact that we're over here now and walking around the land that history is written about for so many years.
They are here to help change the course of history, but they have no idea what their immediate future holds.
We really just don't know the big picture.
We're in Iraq, the war of Iraq, beating their ass, hopefully.
Yeah, there's missions for us up there. I just don't know when.
But after 3 days on the road to Baghdad, they finally get their first big mission.
I think we're going to build a bridge.
The heavy tanks on their way to Baghdad have been slowed by a gap in the road. And as soon as the unit gets there, they need to build a bridge in the dark.
Basically, it looks like a big giant Lego set.
Legos that weigh hundreds of pounds. It's backbreaking labor to fit each one together. Lieutenant Trageser and his men work past midnight. And then, before dawn, the foundation collapses.
We had to really tear down the bridge and start over again.
We gotta rebuild it. Get ready to pull that top end line.
Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. Straight, pull.
But by mid-morning, after working all night, the Marines open their new bridge.
I don't think I've ever been more proud of my platoon of Marines than I was after that bridge was complete.
Every bridge they build goes up in the shadow of battle and in the shadow of fear. Most of the men, like Randy Beckett, have never been in combat before.
It's kind of scary seeing Iraqis coming because you never know what they're going to do. You never know what they have.
We counted 8, maybe 9, coming from working right to left.
5 people with automatic weapons is dangerous to a lot of people.
2 weeks ago, most of the Marines were confident. They were like, yeah, we're just going to take these people over. We're gonna kill them, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm seeing they're a little more fearful than what they were.
And the nerves are high, especially when it's the first time. It's the first incoming rounds. It's the first gas alert. I think that first time, it's really where the nerves sometimes get the best of you.
You can hear them dreaming about it at night.
Corporal Chris Sessoms is 27 years old.
One of our Marines sleeping, and he just started, gas, gas, gas. You know, and it gets pretty bad when you start hearing that because everyone's putting on the gas mask on and clearing, and then all of a sudden you realize, we got a Marine dreaming over here.
But the Marines are worried about more than getting hurt or killed themselves.
Does anything scare you? Knowing the fact that I might have to shoot a little kid that's holding a rifle. I know it's something I have to do, but it's just, you know, what if that's my little kid one day back home? I mean, I don't really want to shoot anybody, but if I have to, I know I will.
There's shooting all around them, but none directed at them. There is more building. In the middle of a sandstorm, which slowed the advance of the invasion force, Corporal Sessoms was part of the team that built another bridge.
Go, get more bodies in there.
It went up without a problem, which is good, because after 4 days in the desert, they've got enough problems.
My hygiene, well, I got my first shower. I mean, not full-out shower, but I got to wash my hair for the first time in 2 weeks.
You roll it up during the day so little bugs and stuff don't crawl in it. I just sleep on the isomat on the rocks.
Sunday, probably had 2-3 hours of sleep.
There's been a lot of long nights. There's been a couple all-night operations. Our drivers are tired.
What do I miss at home? Oh, food. Right there you go.
And there isn't much of it here.
I'd have my mom make some Jaeger schnitzel.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I'm really craving right now is Eggs Benedict and a Bloody Mary.
Right now, I'd love to have me a pork chop sandwich, you know?
But food is just a small part of what Lance Corporal Marvin Barnes misses about home.
I miss the little things. I miss the grass. I miss people. I miss seeing the family and whatnot. And listen to my father talk.
I would give him some encouragement and try to give him some words of wisdom to help him as a young man to grow up to be a responsible young man.
Barnes's parents are waiting and praying back home in Leary, Georgia.
I would like to tell him that I love him and I miss him, and we'll be praying that he'll return home safe.
He's special to us. We always tell him that he's our little hero, so.
Well, the thing I probably miss most about the time of day and the time with my family is when I would get home from work.
Who do we love?
Daddy!
We do?
Lieutenant Trageser from Jacksonville, North Carolina, has left behind a wife and 5 children.
They're learning that he's gone, and it's going to be a long time. But and those times are the times that hurt.
What I really miss, though, is when the children are in bed, and I've read them a story, and I come back into the kitchen, and my wife has the lights turned down. She's got a couple little lamps on around the counter. She's got all the chairs picked up on the table, and she swept the floor, and the house has that warm evening feeling, and it's just the two of us.
My dad, he's also in the military, so he understands what I'm going through.
I miss her a lot, miss her tremendously. I've got her pictures all over the place, and I look at them all the time.
He was a CB, he is an engineer, so he understands exactly, you know, I can write to him and tell him, you know, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going through, and he understands.
But Lieutenant Tom may have to wait a long time for a letter from her home in Lafayette, Louisiana. The engineers in this battalion have outraced the supply lines and the mail. That one glimpse of home can be everything to the younger Marines, but not necessarily to veterans like Gunnery Sergeant Wendling.
The bridge, that's a mission essential thing here. And without the bridge, we don't move. Without mail, we can still move.
And 17 days after they set out,
PCP to Magellan, over.
Lieutenant Tom was calling the shots on their longest bridge.
Throw those dog boats, throw those ramps!
This one across the Tigris River, 60 miles south of Baghdad. It was their most important mission.
Get ropes across, get ropes across!
Because just days later, U.S. forces drove into the capital. There were a few problems.
Hey, we need Marines over here!
But the Marines have learned how to do this. And along the way, they've learned about themselves.
I'm not immortal. I am going to die someday. It never really hit me till I got out here.
We came from such different backgrounds and experiences that I definitely have seen a lot of molding coming that way as far as us changing and working together.
When I found out I was coming over here, I was like, oh yeah, I just want to kill some Iraqis. I want to kill some Iraqis. I still feel that same way. But now that I'm here and I see the little kids on the side of the road, and as you're driving by, they're patting their stomach and just asking for food, I noticed that these people aren't as bad as what I thought. It's just the person that was doing it, which, you know, it's Saddam.
With a heart full of pain. If I ever make it, you know what I mean, I want to write music, like, about something like this, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on in the world.
And Lance Corporal Barnes has learned about the world the hard way on his journey to Baghdad.
I'm going home someday. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Next, their story is destined to go down in history. The men and women of the 507th. Those who were lost and one who was saved. Private Jessica Lynch is coming home.
As far as allergies go, I'm a ragweed grass cat dander who met a cat person. But my allergy medicine wasn't approved for the cat dander. So I asked my doctor about switching to Zyrtec.
See how much he likes us?
Whoa, whoa.
Is your allergy medicine working on all your indoor and outdoor allergies? If not, ask your doctor about switching to prescription Zyrtec. Unlike some allergy medicines, Zyrtec is approved to treat both indoor and outdoor allergies. Like grass, ragweed, dust, mold, and even pet dander. In fact, no other antihistamine is FDA approved to treat more allergies than Zyrtec. In studies, drowsiness was the most common side effect. Others included fatigue and dry mouth. Most were mild or moderate. Talk to your doctor about switching to Zyrtec. Zyrtec. That's Zyrtec. Lots of allergies, just one Zyrtec.
What is that wonderful fresh scent? It must be the laundry. With all fabric softener, my employer's clothes come out smelling fresh and feeling soft. Who says you can't have it all?
Part 204 should be soft, smooth, and inviting. Because now, it's also a chin rest. Lever 2000 not only cleans, but moisturizes all your 2000 parts. Lever 2000, for the best parts of life.
48 Hours will continue.
More than a movie, it's a night to love. Lucy, CBS Sunday.
They're either dead or they're running like hell.
Saddam's regime is over. Now Baghdad falls into chaos. I'm Ken Bastida. Violence and looting rule the streets. Now the question of whether U.S. troops should play cop. And the economy is weak. Gas prices outrageous. Why Humvees are selling like hotcakes and who's buying them. Plus, stormy weather moving in this weekend, where the rain is expected to fall. Tonight at 11 on Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Now, more than ever, Americans are anxious, stressed, and depressed. Sutter Health presents Healing the Troubled Mind, a 1-hour special, Tuesday at 7 on Channel 5.
For one final weekend, Levitz is taking all their rooms for less sets and making them an even better value. How? By putting them all on sale. That's how. That's more than 200 rooms of furniture all on sale. And better still, you can get it all for nothing. No deposit, no monthly payments, no interest payments for 15 months. So you get a whole lot more furniture for a whole lot less money. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Get the savings you deserve at Levitz.
Want to get a great $6 restaurant burger without the restaurant? The guacamole bacon $6 burger, new at Carl's Jr.
KPIX.com for local and world news on America at War.
This evening at Fort Bliss, Texas, the 507th Maintenance Company honored its dead. 9 soldiers killed after their rearguard repair unit was ambushed south of Nasiriyah.
God bless our loved ones, our heroes.
But amid the sorrow, there's also a beacon of joy. Rescued POW Private Jessica Lynch is now healthy enough to travel after a series of successful surgeries. She can't walk yet, but she can sit up. Tomorrow, she and her family will fly home to the United States.
Based on my experience, it'll be pretty humbling.
Colonel Rhonda Cornum, a POW during the first Gulf War, says coming home can be confusing.
Because people will come out and be just so happy to see you, and you're thinking, man, I didn't, I got shot.
Her spirits was real high.
According to her family, Jessie hasn't been thinking much about herself at all.
You would think that she would be on herself trying to get better, but still, she's still concerned about the family members of the others.
Those others, 7 more American POWs whose whereabouts remain unknown tonight.
Can't give up hope and prayer that someday they will all be found too.
The daring rescue of Private Lynch was a product of precise military coordination and the kindness of a complete stranger. The Iraqi lawyer, still known only as Mohammed, who risked his life and his young family to help the Marines locate Private Lynch.
When you hear that story, Dee, what goes through your mind?
He's a hero in my book, too.
We don't know where Mohammed is. He reportedly wants to stay in Iraq to help rebuild his country, though an ex-Marine from Ohio has started an online petition to grant him U.S. citizenship. It seems Mohammed already has thousands of new friends. Jessica Lynch comes home first to Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Her recovery, physical and emotional, will test her.
Is there ever a moment, Greg and Dee, when you allow yourself to think about what might have happened to your daughter during those 9 days?
Yeah, I've thought of it, but I tried just to think of the positive, that she's alive, and move on.
She's been strong through this all. She's gonna make up her own mind when she's ready to talk about this.
Whatever Private Lynch has endured, Colonel Rhonda Cornum says this soldier has already proven her will to survive.
I would tell her that she can look at this as an experience by which you can judge all others, and that you can make this into a positive impact on your life, but you have to work at doing that.
The violence and looting on Baghdad streets. Should U.S. forces play cop? Plus, this weekend's stormy forecast next on Eyewitness News.
It's a beautiful morning.
I don't want to go jogging. I don't want to play hockey. All I want are nights with less pain, mornings with less stiffness, so Bo and I can go out early and catch up with all our friends.
Ask your doctor about ways to help relieve the pain of osteoarthritis. Call 1-888-MERC55 for more information.
Are you paying too much for shipping? Priority Mail Service is dependable delivery starting at just $3.85. Maybe that's why we deliver more business packages than any 2-day service. Priority Mail from the United States Postal Service.
Sure, all these OTC and prescription allergy medicines are approved for pollen, but some are not approved for pet dander and dust. Others are not approved for smoke. Only Flonase is approved to relieve the nasal symptoms from all these triggers. For best results, use daily. Side effects are generally mild and may include headache, nosebleed, and sore throat. Ask your doctor about Flonase. For all these triggers, all it takes is Flonase.
This is big. Oh, good. Tums. Correction. Tums Smooth Dissolve.
Introducing new Smooth Dissolve, a velvety smooth new texture that dissolves fast, rushing relief right to where you need it.
It's like whoosh.
New Tums Smooth Dissolve.
You're quitting. You are my hero. Nicoderm CQ, huh?
I'm not a superhero.
You can wear Nicoderm CQ 16 hours during the day or 24 hours to get a jump on morning cravings. You decide. Nicoderm CQ.
Fast-Act Foam. Its patented formula knocks out weeds in 24 hours. The leading imitator doesn't. Roundup Fast-Act Foam knocks out weeds in 24 hours.
Looking back over this week, we're reminded again and again of other regimes that collapsed, other dictators who were toppled. Some compared the taking of Baghdad to the fall of the Berlin Wall, or the collapse of the Soviet Union, or even the liberation of Europe at the end of World War II. Those were all defining moments of freedom in the last century. Perhaps with the liberation of Baghdad, we have the first such moment of this one. That's our special edition of 48 Hours Investigates. I'm Leslie Stahl. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
North, they're celebrating. Allied forces took over the city of Mosul without bloodshed. Saddam's fighters retreated, and like Baghdad and Basra before, mass looting there too soon followed.
It's untidy, and freedom's untidy, and free people are free to make mistakes.
The Pentagon, still on the hunt for Saddam and his top commanders, issued this deck of cards to U.S. troops. Monitored Iraqi phone calls say Saddam was killed in a surprise attack. True or not, many people in Iraq already consider him dead. Those phone calls were between members of Saddam's regime, but they don't prove he's dead, although they do refer to their leader's death. Live in Kuwait, I'm Drew Levinson. Now back to you.
Drew, let's talk about these phone calls. How reliable is this information? It's starting to sound like a broken record.
Dana, that's a good way of putting it, a broken record. It really has. Over the past few weeks, there's always been the question of, is Saddam alive? Is he not alive? And again, that is a question. They think these are fairly reliable communications, but at the same time, you've got to remember, they could be decoys. They could know that the Pentagon is listening in. Therefore, they are making these calls, making these types of communications. So it will put the United States, put the Allied forces off as Saddam would try to sneak out of the country.
Well, I'll tell you, Drew, the hottest selling item would be if Central Command could figure out a way to mass produce that deck of cards that they have with Iraq's most wanted on them. Tell us a little bit more about that deck of playing cards.
Yeah, they really are interesting. There are 55 cards, and on the fronts of them, you have pictures of all of Saddam's regime. I want to show you, this is a copy of one. It's a fairly good copy, but it is a copy we made here in Kuwait, and that is Saddam Hussein. He is on the ace of spades, and if you're wondering where is Uday, well, Uday is on the ace of hearts, and Qusay is on the ace of clubs. So all of those are his two sons, as you know, and so they're all on the aces. One interesting one is the eight of spades. That is Tariq Aziz on the ace on the eight of spades. I don't know why he got such a low number since he is considered to be so high up, but it really is interesting to see those cards basically in all points bulletin for the top people in Saddam's regime.
Interesting symbolism as well. Drew Levinson, live from Kuwait City. Thank you.
Well, tonight, people in Iraq are in desperate need of humanitarian aid, but tons of life-saving supplies simply are not getting to where they need to go. Now, John Lobertini's been looking into it, has a closer look now at efforts to get the supply lines moving. John?
Well, Ken, American troops are beginning to take some steps tonight, like enforcing that curfew Drew mentioned. But according to the World Health Organization, 38 tons of medical supplies and more than 6,000 trauma kits are stuck in nearby Jordan because of the anarchy in Iraq.
The chaos in Baghdad and a war zone still flickering with hostility have left humanitarian aid workers on the outside looking in.
And we know from our experience around the world in war zones.
A representative from the International Rescue Committee told the Commonwealth Club teams are waiting to move in right now from nearby Kuwait and Amman, Jordan.
Water is the critical thing. We've got to address that soon within the next few days, or we're going to start seeing people dying of disease.
And there are further delays because U.S. forces are reportedly trying to influence who receives aid and who doesn't.
Food is food, people are people. I don't care if it's the family of a Ba'athist thug.
Richard Sklar believes reconstruction needs to begin immediately. Sklar was special envoy to the Balkan states for the Clinton administration.
Roads, water, and electric power are your first elements. The sewage comes with the water and power. If you have power, you can run sewage treatment plants. Those are at the top of the list in terms of infrastructure. Buildings do not matter.
By most accounts, Saddam didn't invest much in those areas, but some say rebuilding Iraq may not require starting from scratch. But the unrest and the unwillingness of American troops to police the looting has left humanitarian aid workers ready to venture out on their own. Mark Bartolini just returned from Kuwait.
They have a responsibility under the Geneva Convention to address this problem and provide some security, and they need to start at places like hospitals, places where food and other critical supplies are stored.
Richard Sklar believes Iraq can be made livable in as little as 45 days.
You never want to say that war is the easy part, but I think the war in this case is the easy part.
It's the years that follow that may be the toughest battleground.
Because we have taken on an obligation here and a responsibility that I don't think we understand fully.
In San Francisco, John Lobertini, Channel 5, Eyewitness News.
An emotional day in Fort Bliss, Texas, as fallen members of the Army's 507th Maintenance Unit were remembered. Thousands of people gathered at today's memorial service for the 9 soldiers who were killed in an ambush near Nasiriyah last month. All were posthumously awarded the Purple Heart. 5 other members of the 507th are listed as prisoners of war. And one of the members of the 507th Maintenance Unit is coming home soon. Rescued POW Jessica Lynch has been recovering in a German hospital. Well, tomorrow she will be transferred to the Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington. Doctors say the Army private has made steady progress despite suffering spinal injuries and wounds to her head and extremities.
Well, it was one of the most anticipated battles of the war. Coming up next, how the fight to liberate Mosul became no fight at all.
Plus, the Humvee is suddenly one of the fastest selling vehicles in America. What you get for your patriotic purchase.
And the SARS virus hits the Bay Area's bottom line, how a disease can cost healthy people lots of money.
And ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to your weekend. Ta-da! Bay Area forecast. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Sleep Train, your ticket to a better night's sleep.
It's a full-service show, Dave!
Dave?
Dave is your friend.
The first name, Dave, in late-night television.
Your name comes up all the time.
The Home Depot is more than a store. It's an exterior decorator for your backyard, a place full of ideas and deals to get fired up about. Because right now you'll get free propane and assembly when you buy any gas grill of $119 or more. And if it's a Char-Broil gas grill, you'll also get a free tool set with manufacturer's mail-in rebate. As always, it's the guaranteed low price every day on everything you need to create your own backyard vacation. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
I got the job because I applied at like 73 different places. We're not hiring right now, but if you want to fill out an application, why would I do that? I always did, though. I was starting to get carpal tunnel. I filled out so many.
Hold on. Let's try this again without the carpal tunnel.
I got the job because CareerBuilder helped me find places that were actually hiring. I just went online, I answered a few questions about what I wanted. The employers, they came to me.
Now that's a smarter way to do it. CareerBuilder.com.
So how was the delivery?
Smooth, no pushing or anything. Fit right through.
You came on time?
Like clockwork.
Did you tape it?
Mm-hmm.
For one final weekend, Levitt's is putting all their Rooms for Less sets on sale. And you can get it for nothing for 15 months. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Levitt's.
Are women golfers about to become par for the course on the PGA Tour?
They are. If she has anything to say about it, meet her Sunday on 60 Minutes.
Back to the war now. In northern Iraq, forces loyal to Saddam Hussein defending the city of Mosul disappeared today without a fight.
As Alan Pizzi reports, once the oppression of Saddam's regime vanished, anarchy erupted in the streets there.
Liberation for the city of Mosul meant anarchy. No U.S. troops or Kurdish Peshmerga guerrillas to keep order. The people with guns were looters. And they took anything and everything they could lay their hands on. The central bank was trashed. Notes bearing Saddam Hussein's face were turned into confetti. And to add to the chaos, an Iraqi army depot was plundered. AK-47 assault rifles and even rocket-propelled grenade launchers were grabbed at will. A handful of Peshmerga tried to stop it, but the greed of the looters defied their efforts.
As widespread as the looting was, not everyone here was happy to seize the spoils of victory. When are the Americans coming, many people asked. Arabs in particular felt threatened, fearful not only of the anarchy, but also of the Kurds.
This burning building is why. It holds the records of homeowners. And the Arabs, brought here by Saddam after he forced Kurds out, believe the Kurds will burn the records and then claim their houses.
I want America to come to Mosul.
Why?
The security.
There is no security in this country.
No, no security.
We need security.
But many others said U.S. forces were not welcome.
Iraqi policemen must come back to street to control all these.
But Iraqi military and police barracks have been bombed to rubble. All that remained of Saddam's forces here were weary soldiers who had thrown away their uniforms. We have no cars, this man says, so what else can we do but walk? They were going home, 250 miles to Baghdad. Speakers at Friday prayers called on people not to loot, but theirs was a lonely and unheeded cry in the wilderness of anarchy. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Mosul.
Well, it has become the military vehicle of choice for embedded reporters. And coming up next, the people who are making the Humvee the hottest selling SUV in the Bay Area.
And why two top GOP big shots.
If you're looking for the most wanted in Iraq, he turned himself into coalition forces today. At least he reportedly did that. Standing by with a live report from Baghdad, Fox News correspondent Steve Harrigan. Steve?
Tony, if anybody knows where the stockpiles of the deadly VX nerve agent are in Iraq, if anybody knows where the mustard gas is buried, it's likely this man, General Amr al-Sadi. He was Saddam Hussein's chief scientific advisor. The Cambridge-educated scientist was also probably the most eloquent apologist for the regime. Apparently, he turned himself in today using the intermediaries of a German television company. Al-Sadi's wife is German. Apparently, he still maintains that Iraq has no weapons of mass destruction and that he has no idea of Saddam Hussein's status or where he is. In the meantime, here inside Baghdad, the pace of looting continues unabated. We went out for a ride with some looters today. Here's what we saw. One of the biggest problems plaguing Baghdad right now is something the locals call Alibabas, like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. They are thieves. In this case, it's a family affair. They're going to office buildings, mainly government buildings, and stealing whatever they can grab. This family has a pickup truck. Today they've chosen office furniture. They've got a couple of chairs and a table, and they are on the hunt for more. Now, because Baghdad is a city right now with no police force, it's really led to a sense of chaos. You can see some of these buildings still on fire behind me. The Alibabas are out. They're on the hunt. And Iraqi civilians are trying to protect themselves. They've set up checkpoints, and they've set up their own guns and rocket-propelled grenades out in front of their streets, in front of their houses, to try and protect themselves from the Alibabas. Tony, one thing that could slow down the looters, at least the ones with pickup trucks, could be the price of gasoline here in Baghdad. It's gone from about 10 cents a gallon to more than $4 a gallon, a rate of over 40 times an increase, and that's only if you can find it. Tony, back to you.
All right, Steve Harrigan, thank you very much. Now joining us from the southeastern side of Baghdad, an undisclosed location with the 101st Airborne, one of our embedded reporters, Geraldo Rivera. Geraldo, you've had a pretty busy day. Why don't you tell us about it?
busy day, Tony. I had a busy day. These guys had a very busy day. I'm surrounded here by elements of Alpha Company, the 2nd Battalion, the Raksan Raiders of the 101st Airborne. They've been doing a job on the south side of Baghdad, you know, trying to mop up the remnants of Saddam Hussein's army. You know, Tony, as the debate rages over the proper role of the United States military in quelling the increasing anarchy in Baghdad and beyond, for these guys, there is no debate. There's a war on. It is the tail end of a war, but there's a war on, and these guys are doing the fighting. As their assault helicopters hovered overhead providing cover, they discovered weapons cache after weapons cache, some of them incredibly huge. Tons of stuff, tons of artillery shells coming, curiously enough, from Jordan, marked the Jordan headquarters of the Jordanian army. Maybe we paid for that, but it found its way to Iraq. We also found fully operational artillery, anti-aircraft artillery, artillery that could be used at any moment to shoot down our choppers, our guys. The guys found the artillery and they demolished it. They sent in the combat engineers. They took care of it. And that artillery will no longer be threatening anybody. You can see it in the picture how the combat engineers deal with it. Perhaps the most interesting find the Alpha Company made today were helicopters, almost brand new, half a dozen helicopters hidden behind some dirt berms. German-made helicopters that can be used for various reasons, some just ferrying VIPs, some for police work. Most of these, though, tricked out as gunships, helicopter gunships that could have been used to terrorize the civilian population, also to attack us during the war. Well, these helicopters also will no longer be a threat. Here's what the combat engineers did to them.
Ready? Yeah.
The soldiers found what we think were the day ended sadly, Tony. We found the remnants of what we think was one of the MIAs, one of our soldiers killed during the Battle of Baghdad. As we all watched as the soldiers gathered around, a melancholy moment, Chaplain Shellman of the 2nd Battalion led us all in prayer.
Depart, my fellow soldier, in the name of the Father who created you, in the name of the Son who redeemed you through his bitter suffering and death, and in the name of the Holy Spirit who sanctified you. May our Lord Jesus be with you, to protect you, and to refresh you, before you to lead you into heaven, over you to bless you, here in time and hereafter in eternity. Amen.
Tony, the day ended the still unknown soldier. We know who he is, but his family hasn't been notified yet. Beginning the long journey home. Sad for everybody, but it is the reality of war. So that's it from this undisclosed location with Alpha Company on the south side of Baghdad, working hard. War's not over yet. Back to you, Tony, in Doha.
All right, Geraldo Rivera, thank you very much. Well, at the Pentagon, there's a lot of speculation that a much anticipated, I suppose that's a bad term for it, an expected battle for Tikrit may never materialize. Standing by to talk about that and also rumors regarding Saddam Hussein's survival or non-survival is Kelly Wright, who joins us from the Pentagon. Kelly?
Hi, Tony. I hope you're doing well. And one can't help but be moved by what Geraldo just reported. And defense officials here obviously are always concerned about that. Again, it's an indicative of the fact that this war is far from over. There's still much work to be done. Now, getting to that suspected surrender that took place today, or at least being reported by German television station ZDF or ZDF, the Pentagon basically will not confirm if General Amir al-Saudi has turned himself in. They can't do it. They're basically watching the same reports that we all are. And they want to know if he, in fact, has turned himself into U.S. forces in Baghdad. Now, if he has, defense officials tell Fox News, it would be very significant because, as my colleague Steve Harrigan pointed out, it would definitely mean that he would have access, or at least know, where those weapons of mass destruction are located, although he has denied that reportedly, that those weapons of mass destruction actually exist. Meantime, the big question that looms large and keeps coming up over and over again, where is Saddam Hussein? Is he dead or is he alive? Defense officials say there has been a large degree of chatter coming in or electronic communications among lower-level Iraqi figures suggesting that Saddam Hussein is dead. Russian news agencies even report his death. But the intelligence community says the multiple sources of chatter is not enough hard evidence to support the belief that Saddam has died. Defense sources say the chatter could be a ruse, another method of Saddam's deceptive and crafty ways of eluding capture.
He has not been arrested, and we don't know whether he's alive or dead. And we also have seen conflicting reports. That's really where we stand right now. Again, it's not, while we are focused on individuals now because the regime is fractured, and we must remove those individuals or take them into custody or confirm their status in order to know the regime is finished. It's still about ensuring the regime does not have any capability and ensuring the regime does not come back.
Ensuring the regime does not come back means taking down remnants of the regime in Saddam's hometown of Tikrit. Senior defense officials tell Fox News Tikrit could actually fall without a big fight. After days of heavy bombing, there are indications here at the Pentagon a major U.S. presence may not be needed there for the city to fall. Some U.S. special services are nearby, and there are also some coalition tanks in the area on the roads to the north and to the south. Another issue the coalition is dealing with is restoring stability to Iraq. Since the fall of the Iraqi regime, scores of people have been looting government offices, hospitals, and residences. The U.S. is sending 1,200 police officers to Iraq to help restore law and order in the area. That being done, of course, by the State Department. And, Tony, once again, the coalition's objective is quite clear. According to Brigadier General Vincent Brooks, that objective includes finding the missing American prisoners of war, finding weapons of mass destruction and destroying it, and routing out all elements of the Iraqi regime. Tony?
Kelly Wright, thank you very much. Well, Kelly was talking about Saddam Hussein. What kind of man is he? There's been a lot of speculation. We're now joined by somebody who knows. In fact, he knew Saddam Hussein for 30 years and once worked as his protocol chief. His name is Haitham Rashid Wahib. Mr. Wahib, thank you so much for joining us. I want you to share a little insight with us. Saddam Hussein, we know that this is a man who was addicted to power, who was paranoid. Tell us what you think, if he is still alive, he's doing right now.
Yes, I think he is still alive. He is a master of survival. Even I think these reports of his death is not right. Maybe it is made to make the international opinion on the interior opinion think he is dead. He will try to survive as much as he can. I think I have wrote an article for the Daily Mail in London saying that he will leave Baghdad to his hometown in Tikrit when he feels that the Allied forces, the American and the British forces, are approaching Baghdad. He believes that if he goes to Tikrit, he will be safer. It is his hometown. It is, he believes that his people will protect him more. And adding to this, before the start of the war, he have rented more than 500 homes in Tikrit, in the center of Tikrit and the suburb of Tikrit, and they have paid 1 year in advance, so he can use it to move from one house to another. And also 50 kilometers from Baghdad, from Tikrit, there is a kind of mountains called Himrin Mountains, and there a city called Beji. And there in Himrin Mountains, he have got a very big bunker and small bunkers. And before the war, I received information that he is taking a lot of food and ammunition and guns to Himrin Mountains, so that when he feels that he is surrounded, he will maybe go to Himrin Mountain. Also, I have revealed in my articles here in London to the newspaper that there have been airplanes waiting for him somewhere near Tikrit, maintained 24 hours, to take him everywhere. And there was a group of pilots, Tikriti pilots, were trained by foreign instructors for the last 4 months before the war to fly very low, to avoid radars, and they were headed by the son of the former Minister of Defense. His name is Ra'ad Hamad Shihab At-Tikriti, and he is one of the trusted men of Saddam, and he was heading this team of pilots. So in his mind, he have arranged a lot of things for his survival.
Do you think Amr al-Sadi really would have turned himself in if he believed Saddam Hussein were still alive?
He will never turn himself to the Allied forces. He doesn't have the moral courage to turn himself. He doesn't want to be put on international world tribunal. And also he doesn't have the moral courage to confront the Allied forces face to face. And I can tell you an example, a living example, which I have lived myself with him. During the Iraqi-Iranian war, we were inspecting the Iraqi-Iranian front lines, and mistakenly we went inside the Iranian territory. And after half an hour walking in the Iranian territory, we noticed Iranian soldiers approaching us from far away. And he looked to his senior security man, and he told him, if the Iranian try to catch me, kill me yourself. Never let the Iranian take me alive. So he doesn't have the moral courage to surrender or to confront. He's a coward. But the world
All right, Haitham Rashid Waheed. I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your sentence.
Sorry, the world have exaggerated his courage. He doesn't have this courage the other leaders have.
All right, Haitham Rashid Waheed, thank you so much for joining us. When we return, as I've promised, we're going to bring you the general in charge of the Southern Command's Special Operations Forces. I interviewed him yesterday, an exclusive interview. Don't miss it. Stay right here.
The oil-rich city on Thursday, and things have settled down. More U.S. troops heading home now that Hussein's rule is over. The USS Abraham Lincoln is the second carrier released from duty in the Iraq War. Families expecting their loved ones home in about a month and are planning a big celebration in Everett, Washington. And by the way, the USS Abraham Lincoln has been at sea longer than any other U.S. carrier now on duty. Make that nearly 9 months. And there you have it, the latest on coalition forces and Operation Iraqi Freedom. I'm Rebecca Gomez.
And now joining us from somewhere in the Baghdad vicinity, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, USMC retired, one of the Fox News embeds. Ollie, what's new?
Tony, as Rebecca Gomez just reported, elements of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force on the way north, as General Brooks briefed earlier today at the CENTCOM brief. Above me in this tactical assembly area, a wonderful starlit night, laced with the contrails of those aircraft that are still here, even though the Abraham Lincoln may be headed home. And outside the perimeter right here, a quieter night than we have had yet in Baghdad. Last night, there was gunfire literally around the clock. Tonight, quiet. It started right after dark last night. Tonight, the locals are trying to tell us where the, quote, foreigners are. The foreigners to them, not the Americans, but those who have come to support the regime of Saddam Hussein from other countries. And everywhere we go, Tony, literally everywhere, every school, every athletic facility, even in mosques, we find the ammunition of Saddam Hussein. He had to be the Imelda Marcos of grenades. He had enough ammunition and military equipment for every man, woman, and child in this country, and then some. Everybody I've been with, to include those Marine engineers who blow them up every time they find them, wonder what he ever intended. He has so much of it, he couldn't possibly have used far more of it than any of his fighters were willing to stay around to use against us. Tony, that's the latest from the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force.
Ollie, thank you so much. The Imelda Marcos of grenades, what a line. And now I'm going to bring you an interview I had yesterday. I'm going to bring you portions of it with General Gary Harrell, who is the head of Southern Command. I'm sorry, I said it again. Not Southern Command, Central Command's Special Operations Forces. Let's take a look. General, thanks first for having us. A lot of people are saying that maybe the unwritten story of this war is the role of special operations. Why don't you tell us a little bit? Let's get a snapshot of the kind of men you have doing the operations and what it takes.
A snapshot of the average Special Forces operator or Special Operations operator is a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. He's been around the community for a while. He has done whatever his occupational specialty is for a number of years. And we take these incredibly talented individuals and put them into the worst situation that you can imagine in training to prepare them for the things that we ask them to do in combat. And it runs the gamut from SF soldiers to SEALs with their vast experience in water operations, to a fairly considerable special operations aviation fleet with all the rotary wing assets, AC-130s, and very sophisticated aircraft that we use to be able to put our people into the right places and provide the right level of support.
One of the challenges in wartime is to think on your feet. Your people have to think on their feet 24 hours a day. This is not something where there's a rigid plan. On day one you do A and on day two you do B. Instead, you're training people how to think on their feet and to react to changes each and every minute, not let alone each and every day.
That's a good point, because in our training we focus on training them how to think, not what to think. And the analogy is that we give our operators broad right and left limits, and maybe even a limit of advance, but maybe not. And then if he understands what the mission requirements are and he operates inside those broad right and left limits, then the mission will be successful.
Let's talk a little bit about technology and also about getting along with people in remote settings. It means first you got to have some people with pretty good language skills.
Yes.
So that's an important part. But also, we've noticed special operations forces on everything from horseback to high-tech stuff. I mean, the range of technologies is probably unlike anything we've ever seen.
I think that's a fair assessment, because if you think about that picture of the SF soldier on a horse, he's also got a computer. And that computer and his radio enabled him to bring a vast range of technology into the fight, and much more so than a mounted cavalryman would have been able to do 100 and some years ago on the plains. But he's still on a horse because that's the best way to get around. And you know, we had to requisition some saddles, and we had to argue with the bureaucracy about whether those were for recreation or for missions, and we said no, they're for missions. And so we had to go through that process. But that soldier needed that saddle so that he could move on that horse, and that's the only way they could get around in the terrain where they happen to be. But it's also much broader than that, because not only do we bring technology that can harm people, and we do, we also bring incredible technology that can help people. I was at a fire base not too long ago, and a Special Forces reservist was there. He happened to be from Hawaii, and he was so incredibly successful in working with the townsfolk. He saved one young boy's life who's somehow his father's musket discharged or was shot or something, had a gaping chest wound, what we call a sucking chest wound. And the doctor saved this young boy's life. And every morning outside the main gate to the compound was a long line of people waiting to see Doc Maui. And several days later, the compound was shelled. Some guys from another location came in and lobbed some shells into the compound. So they closed the clinic. And the local headman came to the commander and said, when will you open the clinic back up? And he said, I'll open the clinic back up when you hand over the people who attacked us. And about 2 days later, they brought in 3 personnel who had attacked the compound. And so that is just a small measure of how successful that these folks are.
A lot of people say, why didn't you have a plan? Why didn't you have a plan in case there was looting? Why didn't you have you've heard this many times from the beginning of the war. Turns out you did have plans.
Well, some of us did chuckle at some of those questions. Any good commander has not only a plan, but he has numerous branches and sequels off of that plan, because most of us know that no matter how good your plan is, it probably goes out the window when the first round cracks over your head. And so you have to be prepared for the situation to change. And when the situation changes, then you say, okay, that's different. Let me go to plan B. Or if plan B doesn't work, I go to plan C. And so the commanders, any commander who thinks through that, and most of our commanders are very, very thoughtful and very smart, the guys that I have the privilege of being able to work with, they've already figured that out. And General Franks did a great job of putting together a staff and a campaign plan that took all of that into account. I think the assessment will be, when all of the after-action reviews are completed, was that we got it about right, because one of the things that we did take great pains to do was to limit collateral damage. And I think that as we look back on it, that hopefully the people will understand that we put people at risk sometimes, but we really tried to limit the collateral damage.
When you think of everything you've seen and done, what makes you the proudest?
Oh, the people. You know, we have lots of amazing technology, but when we brief folks on what our capability is, we go, if you think we do this because of the technology we have, you miss the point completely. We're able to do the amazing things that Special Forces and Special Operations can do because of the people. It's the high quality of the people. And that probably will be one of the things that I will miss the most when that time comes, is the people that I've been fortunate enough to associate with.
General Harrell, thanks so much.
Okay.
Now, we've got a little bit of news breaking. By the way, I want to thank General Harrell and his staff. They gave us exclusive access to their compound here in Doha, and it was an extraordinary interview. Breaking news. Syria is responding once again to charges by the United States that it has been aiding and abetting Iraq and also forces opposed to the United States. It says those charges are baseless. In addition, as we've reported earlier, Amr al-Sadi, the chief science advisor to Saddam Hussein, turned himself over today to coalition forces. What he did is he marched over to ZDF, the German television network, and said, please take me to the coalition forces. And there's now some exclusive video from ZDF. Here he is speaking with reporters as he turned himself over. Now, Mr. al-Sadi has a German wife. That may be why he chose a German television network. But there he is, making his way over to coalition forces. As Steve Harrigan reported some time ago, he is maintaining, al-Sadi is, that Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction. Indeed, none have been found yet. But on the other hand, if anybody knows where those are buried, this is the guy. So there's some exclusive footage of Amr al-Sadi. We're going to take a break. We'll bring you the latest on Operation Iraqi Freedom in a couple of minutes. Stay here.
I'll beat anybody's price. I'll beat his price.
Tired of double talk? Here's a real sale. Suzuki's once-a-year Move Fast sale. Get great financing or $2,000 cash back on all new 2003 Arios. A Consumer's Digest Best Buy with America's #1 warranty. That's 0% APR financing for 5 years or $2,000 cash back. So get in and take a closer look at America's best value so you don't have to deal with them.
We want to sell you a car.
Life may not be as easy as pushing a button,
But with e-file from the IRS, your taxes can be. It's the fastest, surest way to get your taxes behind you. So ask your tax preparer or visit us on the web.
Hey, Bob. You get a new haircut?
No.
Hey, Bob. Hey. Did you lose weight?
Huh?
New jacket, Bob?
Nope.
What's different? He finally asked his doctor about Viagra. Ready to ask your doctor about Viagra for the first time? Find out if a free sample is right for you. To learn more, visit Viagra.com.
Called the sitter, I walked the dog, and I saw the doctor.
Ask your doctor and see the difference.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kiran Chetri with the latest now on Operation Iraqi Freedom. Saddam Hussein's regime continuing to crumble. As we've been reporting today, a top Iraqi general apparently surrendering. There are reports Amir al-Assadi left his Baghdad villa today and turned himself over to an American warrant officer. General al-Assadi was Saddam's top scientific advisor, and he's on the list of the 55 most wanted members of Saddam's regime that our Defense Department put on playing cards. Of course, the most wanted man of the 55, Saddam Hussein, remains unaccounted for. Some chatter, though, picked up by U.S. intelligence suggests the Iraqi dictator may have been killed. There is still no hard confirmation of this. Meantime, residents of a Baghdad suburb say they saw Saddam's son Qusay alive shortly after U.S. bombs flattened a building where Saddam and his sons were believed to be. That strike demolished the building, but coalition officials say they think Saddam may have gotten away. A military transport plane carrying rescued POW Jessica Lynch and about 50 other injured soldiers has left Germany and is now on its way to the U.S. The 19-year-old private first class is expected to be taken to the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. That's in Washington, D.C., where she'll be getting more treatment for her multiple injuries. She was captured last month after her convoy was ambushed in the Iraqi city of Nasiriyah, and U.S. Special Ops forces launched an amazing rescue. They got her out of a hospital in the city on April 1st. And although Saddam's regime is finished, the war certainly not over. U.S. troops continue to be deployed to help clean up and rebuild Iraq. 175 soldiers from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, said goodbye to their loved ones before shipping out to the Middle East. They're members of the Salisbury unit responsible for moving equipment and personnel. And those are your latest headlines for now in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I'm Kiran Chetri. We head back to Tony Snow and more of Weekend Live.
Thank you very much, Karen. And I am Tony Snow in Doha, Qatar. But we are going to turn to Kuwait City. Jonathan Hunt is standing by. He's going to tell us about the latest discoveries in Basra about Saddam Hussein's possible links to al-Qaeda, and also the latest in the chaos and looting in in Iraq's second largest city. Jonathan?
Hi, Tony. Yeah, we've got another extraordinary story developing in Basra. Hundreds of Iraqis, desperate to find relatives who they say were imprisoned by Saddam Hussein's regime, have begun digging frantically with their bare hands around the main prison there in Basra. Now, the rumours surfaced on Friday, first of all, that voices had been heard coming from beneath the rubble of the prison. And the locals say that they believe there were jail cells underneath that prison, and that some of those who were imprisoned by the Saddam Hussein regime may still be alive beneath all that rubble. Now, British soldiers have been helping with the digging, but as yet, they say, they have found no signs of life.
We helped to do some digging last night, but we didn't find anything. The locals are still convinced that there are people there, and so we're going to try and get some teams in to have a look and do what we can. But at the moment, there's no confirmation that there is anybody in there at all.
British troops have also reportedly uncovered clear evidence that hundreds of Islamic guerrilla fighters recruited by Saddam Hussein were still arriving in Iraq just days before the war began. Documents seized in Basra reveal the extent of the planning that went into this operation, designed to recruit volunteers to fight a jihad against coalition forces. The guerrillas provided some of the fiercest resistance as US and British troops moved through the south, and there is a suggestion that some of the volunteers who survived the fighting may now have moved to Baghdad and could be among those planning and indeed carrying out the kind of bombing and shooting attacks we have seen on U.S. troops manning checkpoints in the capital. Meantime, while the majority of Iraq is now under coalition control and elements of the force prepare to head home, others are just moving in. Parts of the high-tech 4th Infantry Division, having arrived in Kuwait over the last 10 days or so, are now on their way into Iraq, taking with them their Apache attack helicopters, M1A1 tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles. It's not clear where the 4th ID is headed, but they could be used in the battle for Tikrit. Finally, news that several hundred former exiles, now calling themselves the Iraqi Freedom Forces, have taken control of the town of Shatra near Nasiriyah. Now, it's thought that these fighters are loyal to the Iraqi National Congress leader Ahmed Chalabi. He, of course, has some support back in Washington, but he remains a controversial figure in Iraq. And the U.S. is, of course, very keen to hand over this kind of power to the Iraqi people, but they are all too well aware, of course, of the dangers of too many armed groups following too many different opposition leaders emerging in southern Iraq. That's the latest live from Kuwait City. Back to you, Tony.
Jonathan Hunt, thank you very much. Well, chaos seems to be the order of the day, not merely in Basra, but also Baghdad. Joining us from Amman, Jordan, with a report on how coalition forces are trying to deal with that chaos is Fox News correspondent Douglas Kennedy. Douglas?
Hey, Tony. Here in Amman, Jordan, very significant